Alrighty guys, thanks for joining me. This is your host Heidi Jester. Welcome to Normany 44. This is a game designed by Mark Semenich and produced by GMT Games. They're currently actually in the process of reprinting Normany 44, so head on over to the GMT Games website and pick up a copy for yourself. They are on the P500, and I think it's the third reprint coming out soon. Hopefully soon. GMT, hello? Anyone out there? Anyways, we're hoping to get our game here shortly. Hopefully before the end of the year, that would be great. Normany 44 by Mark Semenich. So we're going to get a jump start on things as we're using our Vassal module, and we're going to be trying to just go through a couple turns, a couple scenarios, a couple gameplays, look at how we do, get to see how the game plays, just to kind of give us an overview so when our game arrives, hopefully soon, as I mentioned, we'll have a good idea of how to set it up and get ready to play it. So looking forward to that for sure. So as you can see here in the Vassal module, we have the whole Normandy campaign here. And this is a game that's going to go from June 6th, 1944 up to June 27th. There's 22 turns in a game, in a campaign game. There is a couple of shorter scenarios that you can set up. There's a 7-turn scenario. There's a Cherbourg scenario, and a couple variants. So lots of replayability, but I thought we'd just start off with a nice campaign game and see how things go. One thing I will of note, if you've noticed on my YouTube channel recently, we've actually been putting out lots of different games. We're trying different systems and trying different things. One thing I did realize is trying to learn a whole bunch of new games all at the same time is not a great idea because all the rules start to get mismatched together. So hopefully I won't be making too many mistakes as we go through this, but this is a training game, training scenario, whatever you want to call it. And if you do see something we did wrong or we missed a rule or whatever, feel free, seriously, feel free to leave a comment down below so those people watching this can see what we did wrong in case they decide to pick this up, and so they're aware of the things we're doing wrong as well. So there you go. So that's going to be it. Again, probably won't be a thorough, complex, from start to finish type of game. Probably go a couple turns and then maybe start over and try again and redo all the things that we do wrong. And like I said, looking forward to the new Normany 44 edition coming out hopefully very soon, and hopefully we'll be able to pick that up. So as you can see, it looks like there's a lot of information and a lot of counters and all kinds of stuff, and that's what I'm just here to hopefully clarify a little bit of this. If you haven't read the rules, I know that a lot of people learn better by watching than by reading. I know I do personally. If I can watch someone do a tutorial video or watch them play and just listen to what their thoughts are, listen to how they do things, it makes it a little bit easier for me. I will be recording this offline instead of online. There will be a couple advantages to that. Number one, if we have to look up any rules or check anything, I can obviously just put this on pause and then come back to you guys, and you won't have to sit here waiting for me to try and look things up. There are a lot of kind of special rules, obviously. When you're dealing with Normandy, you got all kinds of special units that appeared. You got special rules for different things. You got weather conditions to worry about. You got reinforcement points to worry about. You got different things happen on different turns. Turn one's a special turn, obviously. And we'll try and cover as much of that as we can. Again, take everything I say with a grain of salt. This is my interpretation of the rules. If somebody knows better, hopefully they'll post it in the comments section down below. So be sure to check these out, guys, and see what we did wrong, or if there's any misinterpretation of the rules. So that way, the next time we start this up, we'll have a really good idea of things we should be, really focused in on to make sure we don't mess up the next time. So, if we look at, again, looks like there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of counters and stuff, but really, it's not as bad as it looks. And that's why I decided to focus in on this game. Number one, I'm a really big fan of Normandy games in general. And the West Front action, specifically Normandy and the events of June 6th and what had happened. And I really can't get enough of that information. And I've got a book series headed my way from eBay that I just purchased to help understand all the information about the different beaches and the units and, just the philosophies, all kinds of great things. So hopefully we get through this pretty unscathed. Like I said, if you guys see something we do incorrectly or whatever, I'm just here to kind of give you the information. This is a spectacular game. Absolutely spectacular game. As I said earlier, I was trying to learn the couple of the different other gaming systems out there and learning this at the same time. I'm just trying out a whole bunch of different things. And after reading the rules for this one, I'm like, oh, this is really good. Really, really good. And so I wanted to pick this up and try it out. Like I said, I got the new Normandy 44 and the mounted map boards on order, ready to go. So hopefully they'll arrive hopefully soon. I was actually on the GMT website just a little bit ago looking to see if my order's been shipped yet. So come on, guys, let's get it going. Anywho, all right, so let's look at what we need to do here. So we are going to go to the turn sequence, the abbreviated sequence of play. So this is kind of just an overview of the sequence of play. You have the initial phase. You're going to determine the weather. You're going to check to see whether mulberry construction can begin or not. Both players receive supply points and replacement points. Both players flip over all their supply headquarters and Werfer brigades to their ready side. Then the German player takes their turn. It goes through the replacement phase, the movement phase, the combat phase, the reserve movement phase, the reserve combat phase, the recovery phase, and the supply phase. Then the Allied player takes their turn. In the same order, replacement, then movement, then combat, then reserve movement, then reserve combat, then recovery, then supply. And then you have the end of phase where you conduct airborne withdrawals, check for German automatic victory, and then go back to the start of the turn again. Turn one special in that the Allies have an invasion step that happens before anything, and then you go right into the German player turn, as the weather is already pre-designated. And the weather will have an effect, as you can see on the chart here. And we'll go over that when need be. So in a normal turn, the Germans go, then the Americans go, then it goes back and forth. But like I said, a special rule in turn one, where the Allies have obviously the invasion phase. So we're going to go through that kind of step by step for you guys here and see how it goes. Like I said in the beginning, hopefully we won't get too much wrong with this. We're going to try and cut these videos at, good times, like, once we complete a certain phase or whatever. So that way you guys can follow along. And I'm going to try and keep these to, half hour, hopefully less in time. And obviously this is just the introductory one. And hopefully we'll get into maybe some airborne landings here. Some of the things, again, come into play, like the British air support markers, the American air support, the naval support markers. Sometimes you're going to have to put this on pause to check because, sometimes these don't come available until a certain game turn. You can see here the 709th Mobile Division. Release one of these units per turn, starting on turn 2. Same thing here with the 243rd Division. All right, so let's talk about a little bit about the terrain. So we'll have to deal with that, obviously. These are flooded hexes. So the ones with the dashed water lines in them are all flooded hexes. Obviously, a lot of flooding over here in Utah area. We have we also have flooded hex sides, which are these hex sides that flow along the rivers here, like that. We also have a lot of bocage, and in this game there is two kinds of bocage. There is the what is it called? The clear, the mixed, the bocage. Okay. Yeah, that's right. See, I'm already confusing my games. In this game, it's just bocage. Right, there we go. So most of the area, if we zoom out, a lot of bocage, a lot of flooded areas up here. There's two kinds of rivers. There is minor rivers and there are major rivers. And again, each of the minor rivers, kind of like flowing past St. Lo here, is kind of a thinner blue line. The major rivers are like this one here. And I think there's one over here on the west side. I think this is all considered major river. That's considered a major river there. So obviously you got the forest hex. You got a couple of hill hexes. This is considered mixed. This kind of gray, greenish white area is considered mixed. And then of course you have some clear areas. So what do the American player obviously want to do once they land their units on the beach? What they want to do is they want to establish their mulberry, which is basically where they can then bring units in to help support the invasion. And the other thing the mulberry does is actually increase the amount of supplies, replacement points they get every time. So the more, the sooner they can get the mulberry up, the sooner they can get more replacements coming in. And the American has the same thing over here at Omaha. You can put it on either one of these beaches, but to do that, they have to clear a certain amount of hexes. So this British mulberry can be placed here. And it will come 5 turns after they clear this hex, and there can be no German units within, again, I think it's 3 or 4 hexes of this. So it's going to be a few turns before they are going to be able to clear this area out. But that's kind of what one of their goals is, to try and clear this area out to get the mulberry so they get more reinforcements, so they get more units across the channel. And, start overwhelming the Germans. And for the Americans, I think it's here at Omaha. And they can't have a German unit that is on or adjacent to either one of the Omaha beach hexes. So I think, has to clear all those hexes out as well. So, I'll double check those rules when it comes into play. And what happens is if you, at the start of a turn, if you meet the requirements, you will then put the mulberry 5 turns later. So if, let's say it's at turn 2 and you have met the objective, you would then put the mulberry on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, turn 7. And then when turn 7 arrives, if you still have met that condition, then the mulberry would get there. You would place it on the map, and then you would have a nice beachhead there. And you get more replacements. If, for example, during the start of any turn, if, say, a German moves within 4 hexes of this, then you're going to, extend the duration for when this comes. The other thing of note, and this is different than a lot of other hex encounter war game type games, is what they call what's the name of it? Can't even think of the name of it. Oh my gosh. It's called, yeah, that's what it's called. It's called Zone Box. There we go. So zone bonds are a little bit different, and so I thought I would kind of go over those in the beginning. Let's just take a counter here so I don't mess anything up. So whenever there is two units, then there's a space between them. These two units present a zone bond between them. So enemy units can't just go, I'm going to go there and try to flank them. So you can't enter into a zone bond between units. And the same thing if a unit is here, these two units zone bond that hex, so you can't go between them on this hex side either. And there's some specific rules about that, but it will come into play as this unit here. Not only do you have zone bond with one another units, but you can also do it with some of the fortifications or some of the terrain. In this case, the sea. This unit has a zone bond with the sea across this hex side. So if the Americans land in this hex here, they can't just move over there because this is zone bond with this unit here. So they have to take care of that unit there. And he also has a zone bond over on this hex side as well to the sea. So defensively, it helps keep the counters down. Helps keep the counter mix down because you don't need to have a million units on the map, because you don't need to have a unit in this hex, because these two are formed their own zone bond between one another. Some of the rules will be when you do advancement and stuff. There is some exceptions to every rule I've talked about so far, so just keep that in mind. There are, the rule book is pretty dense. It's a good 23 to 25 pages. There's a good play example at the end of the thing. Probably another 15 or 20 pages of the examples with, color charts and text and everything. But it is pretty dense, so there is usually a lot of exceptions. There's some rule exceptions to a lot of the different units, which units can take replacements, which units can't take replacements, which units can move, which units can't move on the first turn. When units become available to move, there is quite a bit to learn. So that's why we're going through this. Hopefully, there'll be some players that pop in and leave some comments that have played this a couple times and have some experience with it, and kind of go over stuff. Like, for example, just as an example, this unit here is an actual bicycle unit, and it has a movement allowance of 4. But one of the special rules is, as long as the bicycle unit stays on a road hex, they can actually, in cloudy conditions, so you can see there are storm conditions, there's overcast, and there's clear. In overcast conditions, a bicycle unit actually can go 6 movement points, as long as they stay on the road. If they go off the road, then they don't get that. But if they stay on the road, they can do that. There's some rules for all these different dotted lines. This is the Cherbourg defensive zone. Units that are inside this hex line here, or this dash line, must stay within that dash line and cannot exit that until enemy units come within a couple hexes of the perimeter. You can move units around inside. You just can't take them and move them outside. So there's a lot of exceptions on different rules with, different units and which units can act during the invasion turn, which ones can't. And it's, to keep the play balance and keep everything fair. It's just a matter of just learning those exceptions and understanding what you can do with the units and you can't. So, I was going to try and get the infantry phase in, but we'll just call this an introductory video here and just kind of go over, some of the stuff. So on turn number 1, obviously, as we looked at, you're going to have the invasion phase, and then once that happens, then it's going to go to the German player turn and then the Allied player turn. So the Allies actually get like two turns in the first turn. One's an invasion, and then the second one, obviously, is their normal turn. Let's see, what other rules and stuff might we come across? One thing I should probably talk about is actually the units. So, let's talk about, let's say, this unit here. All right, so the first number there is its attack strength. That's also used as a defensive strength as well. The second number, so in this case it'd be a 6 down at the bottom. And the second number after the dash is their movement points. Above the 5, you can see there a +1. That is their troop quality. And the higher the troop quality, the better their unit, because, if you got really good troops fighting against really poor troops, you might earn yourself a combat shift on the table. Unit designation on the left-hand side, the size of the unit at the top, and then the starting hex up there in the top right-hand corner, plus the unit symbol. And then, of course, the NATO symbol and what kind of unit it is. Some units will actually have, like this is an anti-tank weapon. You can notice it has 3 in like a bracket. Anything in a bracket means this unit cannot attack, it can only defend. The second number there in the orange-red box, the 4, represents that this has got a anti-armor value on it. So it can prevent the enemies from gaining a armor shift if they have armor in their attacks against you. So these are quite valuable units to kind of prevent those extra shifts. Let's see. So all these here are basically, think of these as the bunkers with a garrison inside it. You can see it has a 2 in brackets, which means it can't attack and it can only defend. And a 0 for movement, which means it has no movement, it can't move, and the troop quality of a -1 there. Some units, let's see, headquarters, let's talk about headquarters. So headquarters here, any unit with a white all around their unit box doesn't exert a zone of control at all. So you don't have to worry about moving into that zone of control and everything. So the white box, these are I believe, this is the headquarters for the 84th Corps. So what the headquarter unit can do is they can move just like every other unit, but if they move, they actually flip to their move side, and then they can't provide artillery shifts for combat. If you only move it one space, it doesn't flip, and then it can provide anything that's within 5 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's say there was an American unit here, and he was attacking this unit here. The German headquarters here could call in defensive artillery, although defensive artillery only works in a determined defense. But let's say there's an American unit and this unit was attacking. Well, it couldn't attack because it's in brackets. That's a bad example. Let's try something else. Actually, I don't want to mess up the board, so I think it was there. Let's just leave that to where it was. Let's see if we can find a headquarters. Well, I guess you'll just see that in the game. You just understand that headquarter units have to be within 5 hexes, and then they use one of their supply points to provide a shift during that combat for artillery. And you'll earn a certain amount of supply points and reinforcements and everything based upon the weather. So weather is going to be a very important factor in how things happen. So you can see here, if we roll 1, it's going to be a storm condition. We're not going to be able to build improved positions, but the Germans can't build improved positions until June 10th anyways. They'll earn 3 supply points. They will not earn any infantry replacements, but they will earn a special armor replacement, which can be put on either a Panther tank or a Tiger tank. And these are special units. And let's see if we can find one. So you can see a lot of these tanks have a gray value of 3. That means they're an armored unit. If they have a red value, or a red box with a yellow value, that means they're an anti-tank. They can't get the tank bonus, but they can prevent the enemy from getting the tank bonus. The gray units, the gray box there with 3. This is an armored unit, and it would try to get the attack bonus of armor shift. Let's see, I don't think we have any of our, let's see if we can look at German reinforcements here. So the Tiger tanks are easy to spot because they have a red attack value. Here they are. Here's a Tiger tank. So it has a red attack value there. It's the only unit as well with an armor factor of 5 as well. And then the Panthers are the boxed 4. Let's see if we can find when the Panther tanks come in. There's a 3. And I think, let's see. That's not it. Oh, here they are, right here. So these are the Panther tanks here. They come in with the box 4. And like I said, the Tiger tanks are the box 5. And the higher the number, the better they are, because you're going to compare and see who's got the higher value to see who gets the armor shift or not get the armor shift if you're defending. But again, that's stuff we'll have to look at and kind of study in the rules as we play through. So neither one of those units are on the board yet, but you can see Germans are going to be getting a lot of reinforcements. The way reinforcements work is for the Germans, they are all color-coded, and they also say T2, which means turn 2. But the color-coded with red and blue, and that represents these zones. If we zoom out on the map here, the red zone is down here in the, what would that be, the southeast corner. So they can come in anywhere along that southeast corner, anywhere there's a red box. They can't come in between the red boxes. They can only come in on the hexes that have the red boxes. So I can't bring units in here or here or here, just where the red boxes are. And the other units are in the blue, so they would come in here. Now there is a special rule that you can delay bringing units in. For example, if we didn't want to bring these units in the blue box, we could delay them a turn, and then we could use their section or an adjacent section as well. If we wanted to wait another turn, we could actually move it all the way over to the orange box. I believe you can continue doing that, but I would have to double check the rules. On that, maybe you can only do it once. I'm not sure. That's a great question. I'll have to look that up in between episodes. See, there's things that we'll come across that I'm sure is like, yeah, well, what are we going to do about that? The invasion part of the game is actually pretty easy. Unlike some of the other games out there, it's pretty easy setup. You're just going to roll on a couple charts to see what happens to the airborne divisions, the units that land in the boxes, what happens at Point to Hawk, what happens at Omaha, Gold, Juno, and Sword Beaches, and of course the 3 British para units as well. Then when you're done with that, that's the invasion phase, and then it goes right in the German turn. Again, not too much happens on the first turn. You go right in basically the movement phase. You don't get any reinforcements or anything on the first turn. Any reinforcement points. And then once we finish with the German turn, then it goes to the American turn. And then that turn would end. Then you can go to turn number 2, and it basically it tells you on turn number 2 it either is Overcast 2 or Overcast 3, and you roll a dice to see if it stays on 2 or 3, and then starting on turn 3, weather is variable depending on what you roll. The storm conditions are going to help the Germans because the Allied player is going to get no air support and no naval support on storm turns. On Overcast, if it's 2 overcasts, the Americans will not get any air support, and they will get 2 naval support. On Overcast 3, they will get 1 air unit and 2 naval. So you can see the better the conditions, the better it helps the Americans. The worse the condition, the better it helps the Germans slow down the American advance because they can't. There's a lot of rules built into the support of the air going across, and strafing enemy units, especially the silhouette units. So yeah, if we look at, let's talk about that for a second. So this unit here actually has a silhouette on it. So does this unit up here. This is an AT gun. This is obviously a Stug. So silhouette units. A stacking limit in this game is basically 4 points of stacking units in a hex. And the way they do stacking points is if you have a strength of 2 or less, you count as 1 stacking point. So this unit here counts as 1 stacking point. So does this one, so does this one, so does this one. Anything above 2, like this unit over here, is a strength of 4, counts as 2 points. So you could have 2 of these 4-3 units in a hex, and that would be it. That would be it for the units that cost points. Now there's others that don't cost any points, and that is a silhouette unit. Does not cost any points, but it only counts for the first silhouette unit in a hex. The second silhouette would cost normal. So if these 2 tanks got together, this silhouette would be free. This one would cost 2 because it has a attack value of higher than 2. So it costs 2. So if these 2 units got together with this unit over here, that's going to cost 2 stacking points. This is going to cost 2 stacking points, and then this would be free. So you could put all 3 of these units together, but you could not combine all 4 of these units together because you would be overstocked in a hex, because only the first silhouette unit. Other things that stack for free are headquarters units and engineer units, which you will see probably in the second wave. Probably makes more sense. Yeah, so that engineer unit coming in at Omaha is an E unit. It's an engineering unit. You can only ever have 1 engineer unit and 1 headquarter in a hex at any time anyways, so you don't have to worry about that. But those engineer and headquarter units, they stack for free. So if we were just to look at this stack here, as an example, how many stacking points would that cost you guys? And I'll let you think about that for a second, and then I'll give you the answer. If you said 2 stacking points, you are correct. So the unit all the way to the left, the 6-4, costs 2 stacking points because it's higher than 2 attack value. The engineer unit is free, the silhouette unit is free, and the headquarter unit is free. So this would just, those 4 units would just cost 2 stacking points. Let's see if we can give another example or two. Let's see about this one. And this should be pretty easy because it's, now that you've seen a good example, you can probably pick up on what happens. This is going to be 4 stacking points. This would fill up a hex, right? Because it's 2 stacking points for the first unit, 2 stacking points for the second unit, and 1 free silhouette. So that would be 4 stacking points. So that's going to be filled up. Let's look at a British example over here. Let's see, what do we have here? And yeah, that's the same thing we just did. 2 stacking points, and a free silhouette. So that's 4. So that would fill up that hex. Obviously, you could move a engineer unit into that hex. You could move a headquarter into that hex. And those would also stack for free. So that's stacking. It's not, it's not really, brain surgery or anything. It's just you got to try and figure that out. And once you get the hang of it, this, you could just look at these, you guys can go, oh, that's 2 stacking points. And if you try to combine it on this, well, that's going to be another 2 stacking points, and that's going to be it. So you're going to be able to put these 3 units into one hex, and that'll be it. If you tried to add another tank in there, you won't be able to because it would be more than 1 silhouette unit. Let's see. So that's stacking. We talked about the Zoc bonds, 2 units. If they, these 2 units form a Zoc bond across this hex side, enemy units can't move from here into there. It's prohibited. And the same thing if you do it with the hex sides, like these 2 units here, right here and here. Enemy units can't enter into that hex because it's a Zoc bond. I think he was right there, if I'm not mistaken. Might have to load up a fresh one here just to make sure I didn't mess any of these counters up. So the Zoc bond's real important. Weather is going to affect movement on the roads for the Germans as well. And I think it actually talks about it in the chart. That's a cadre box. That's not a chart. Let's look at the charts. So you can see here there's secondary roads and there's primary roads. So secondary roads are half a movement point for non-mechanized and half a movement point for mechanized. So secondary roads are standard. Primary roads are half a movement point for non-mechanized and a third a movement point for mechanized units. But that they only get the bonus for mechanized units on a primary road when it's storm, basically. You only get that bonus when there's a storm. So any other time, the German mechanized units pay a half a movement point for primary roads in clear and overcast. So the only time you get the full benefit of the primary roads for mechanized units to get a third of movement points so they can go a lot farther is during a storm because the Allies aren't there. I guess it's, simulating them strafing these units and having them to pull off the road and take time out to dodge all the plane attacks and making sure they're under cover of trees and stuff like that. During the storms, as we saw earlier, the Allied units don't have any planes. So at that point, the German doesn't have to worry about being strafed and they can use their full movement allowance for them. So anyways, this was an introductory part to Normandy 44. Hopefully you guys will enjoy it. Stick around and watch me play. Let me know what I'm doing wrong. If you have any suggestions in between episodes about you know, where to move units, or what to push for, or where to make defensive lines, or where to attack, or anything like that. You know, based on when you're watching this video. Obviously, if you're watching it a year or two down the line, it's not going to do me much good. But if you're keeping up on the series and you're able to watch it, I'll try and get a couple videos out a week on this, and we'll get, like I said, we probably won't do a full playthrough. This will be just like a test. Maybe go through 2 or 3 turns, see how we do, see the flow of the game, see, you know, double check rules that we might have misinterpreted or forgot about or whatever. I mean, it's very easy to forget things like, oh, the glider brigade comes in on turn number 2. You might completely forget that because, you know, that's not part of the it's not part of the abbreviated sequence of play where, you know, on turn 2, do this, do this, do this, do this. You have to, you know, remember all that stuff. So hopefully we won't forget too much of it. And hopefully we'll get a nice, good play of Normandy 44 for you guys to enjoy and check out, because I think this is a wonderful game. The VASA module is really, really good. And I'm really looking forward to getting my copy of Normandy 44 once they get that sent out. Hello, GMT. Let's go. What are we waiting on? So, yeah, I'm impatient. What can I say? All right, guys. Well, that'll be it. A wrap-up of our introductory. When you come back next time, we will be doing our airborne evasions here from the 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions. And, of course, we'll be doing our beach landings on all 4 beaches. And, of course, our 6th parachute regiment there from the Brits. And it'll probably take us at least an episode or 2 to get through that. Again, it's not too complex, but we'll go over a few other things as we talk about things. So we'll see you all then. Thanks for watching. Take care.